This is like the Bernie Sanders meme. Like, I am once again asking you to gross margin adjust your CAC payback period. Why do usage-based credits suck?
Notion recently announced that 10 percentage points of all of their revenue went to AI bills.
For the benefit of listeners, what is 996?
People are supposed to work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week.
And I actually think it's taken from Foxconn. They had to put nets so that people, if you jump off, you live, car wash membership. It costs about 2.2x what one drive-through would be.
I think it's brilliant.
What's a cracked engineer?
There was a whole cracked engineer manifesto. I don't think I know anyone who meets all of these criteria and is also an engineer.
Or someone I want to be around. Like, this person definitely just eats Soylent.
They sit at their desk, they're 996, they have Soylent, they have no alcohol. They also just might be AI. What I tried this week. What's a tool, a tactic, an interview question, a growth hack that actually worked or that I thought would work and I'm kind of disillusioned by. But my thing that I tried this week is...
From Mostly Media, it's Mostly Growth. Go-to-market strategist Kyle Poyar and CFO CJ Gustafson share smart takes on growing revenue and running a company. Pricing, unit economics, AI, leadership, candid insights for CEOs, CFOs, and CROs, or anyone else aspiring to climb to the C-suite. This is Mostly Growth.
Kyle Poyar, welcome to the podcast. It's good to see you.
Great to see you, CJ. Finally had me back on. And I even dressed like you today.
All those edible arrangements I've been sending, they finally showed up.
Those were edible?
What'd you do with them?
No, they were just flowers.
There's so much to talk about. But first, what are we going to call this? I was thinking either mostly unhinged or mostly growth.
I mean, I feel like we need people to vote on this, but I'm more than mostly unhinged. I think I'm completely unhinged. So mostly growth might be a little bit more accurate.
We'll put it to democracy, okay? All right, Kyle, we have some topics picked out here, and in future weeks, we're gonna try to get some input from our lovely readers as well. But something that both you and I are passionate about is usage-based credits. More specifically, though, why do usage-based credits suck?
Oh man, CJ, going in hard on them. I just wrote a piece about why everyone's moving to usage-based credits, and you can't even give me like a week before you dunk on them. This is going to be brutal. Well, let's just back up. So what's the alternative for AI companies, right? So everyone's launching AI. Almost everyone saw OpenAI launch ChatGPT at $20 a month. And they were like, all right, we can launch AI products. It's $20 a month. And they thought, hey, distribution is all that matters. LLM costs are going to drop by 10x every year. We can worry about margins later. The reality is that AI companies and now SaaS companies that have added AI all have margin problems. AI didn't get a whole lot cheaper. In fact, AI costs are exploding. And so folks are figuring out how to avoid negative gross margins or, 10%, 20% gross margins. I don't know if you saw, but Notion recently announced that 10 percentage points of all of their revenue went to AI bills, right? So their margins dropped by 10 percentage points because of AI. And so, we can't keep subsidizing this. Not every company has unlimited VC dollars. And AI credits is sort of the, best fast solution people could come up with. I have to say, I don't know how much modeling there was about whether CFOs would like it, but it avoided people having their best customers be their least profitable customers.
Wait, Kyle, I want to go back to something you just said. Did you say that the cost to run large language models, is it not dropping as fast as we thought?
You could ignore some of those A16Z and Sequoia and whoever else thought pieces on that. I don't think any CFO has looked at their AI bills and said these costs are dropping.
That's crazy because everything I'm seeing on LinkedIn and all these charts that are flying around, they're comparing it to this is going to be a stupid reference, but remember there was that one kid in your neighborhood who had a really nice big screen TV in their basement? And it was $20,000 to get one of those. But now you go to Walmart and you can get a 62-inch TV for legitimately $800. And so I feel at least I'm viewing this as aren't these costs dropping dramatically where it's only 1/3 as costly as it was 2 years ago to run these models in the background?
So I think the fascinating thing with AI is that like some of the older models are getting cheaper, but the customer still wants the latest and greatest, right? And so it's almost as if, we were still in the model of like 12-inch TVs being the next gen, and then the 12-inch TV is dropping the price in half, but then now there's 24-inch TVs and people are like, well, I want to be able to see the TV if I'm buying something, right? So customers want access to the latest and greatest. There's a great quote out there of like, your customer doesn't want access to yesterday's newspaper, right? Like as soon as it's yesterday's newspaper, nobody cares anymore. And I think with AI and LLMs, the same things, people want the best technology, and AI is still not 100% foolproof. And so we want to use the best models and we don't really trust the old stuff.
Dude, that is like such a nuance that's lost in all this, because I'm thinking it's all just getting cheaper. It's like, yes, it is getting cheaper if you want to put 89 in your car, but everybody wants to drive the Ferrari that takes like 93.
Well, it's that. And if you think about like with fuel, we use the same amount of fuel regardless of what we're buying. With the expensive LLMs, they actually have, more advanced capabilities. They can do more reasoning, have larger context windows, do agentic capabilities, right? They're actually taking a lot more tokens. So it's as if we want to buy the most expensive fuel, and then we need about 10 times more fuel if we actually want to use it.
Whoa. I get that from like producing a product in that perspective, but I'm also trying to look at this through the lens of like, on the other end, I'm purchasing something that's usage-based, whether it be AI or anything really. I mean, you could strap this model to anything, and we can come up with some examples in the real world if we want to. I feel like a lot of CFOs originally said, Kyle, like we want usage-based. We want to only pay for like what we use. But in reality, like the constructs that we buy it within, it ends up shifting risk from the vendor to the buyer in a lot of cases.
Well, yeah, I mean, imagine your marketing team came to you saying, hey, we got to buy this tool. It's priced based on AI credits. We think we need 1,000. And then they hire some intern who uses the 1,000 in a week. They keep the AI lights on overnight. And now all of a sudden you're looking at all of your AI companies that you're spending money on. Some you're way underusing relative to what you've committed to. Some you're in punitive overage territory. You can maybe multiply that by a few dozen vendors that all have credits. And it's a bit of a nightmare. Heart goes out to the CFOs out there. But I mean, how would you push back on it? So you've got all of these vendors that want you to go usage based. You've got your employees, right? Your teams internally saying, we got to use AI, we got to use AI, we got to be more efficient. This is how the pricing works. What do you say to them? How do you manage that as a CFO?
Well, so I'm less concerned with how much I'm going to go over, which like a lot of CFOs may be saying like, well, where is he possibly going with this? I'm really concerned with paying for something we are not going to use, because like if the value prop is there that we're going to pay for something on a usage-based setup and it's going to help us get more revenue, it's going to help us get more efficient. Like that was the value prop we signed up for, and it may do more than what we thought. Like with Finn from Intercom solving like support tickets, I wanted it to do that. I'll pay for more if it goes over and is even more excellent than we thought. What I'm more worried about, and I had a reader write in about this, he signed up for, let's just say it's a cloud-based infrastructure that is critical. I won't say which vendor it is, but basically they completely oversold him on what he would possibly use in a year. He comes back, he's like, hey, we've only used 50% of this. And they said, well, unfortunately, the other 50% doesn't roll over unless you renew at the same or larger rate. So in order for him to use just what he was sold on, he needs to enter the next year at the same rate or more. And so you get, it feels like entrapment. It feels like one of those FBI cases, like where they walk you into this thing that you can't get out of. So that's what I'm more nervous about, like just buying a bunch of shit that we're never going to be able to tap into and then having to renew at the same rate.
Well, it's so tough because for customers, like you'd have no idea how much you're going to use, right, at the beginning of the year. And so you kind of rely on the vendor giving you good advice and helping you figure that out. And if they get it totally wrong, you're on the hook. That's it. I do think these rollovers are kind of brilliant. I mean, if you look at Lovable, Bolt, a bunch of companies have now offered credit rollovers. The vendor you're talking about that requires you to stay at the same level is a bit of a special story. With many of these AI products, their churn is insane. And what happens with churn is like people underuse the product and then they're like, hey, why am I paying for something I'm not using? Let's cancel this. And they're often thinking about, do I want to use Lovable or do I want to use Bolt or V0 or Cursor or, insert tool here? With credit rollovers, you kind of always have money in your wallet to spend. and you're always going to go back to that vendor. And the costs of canceling have just gone way up because not only do you miss out on, that month's usage credit, you've missed out on all of the rollover credits too. And so it's kind of a brilliant way to retain a customer, even though, I guess from a lot of customers' perspective, they just have more and more unused credits that they're never going to spend. And they feel pressured to keep the product, even though they're probably never going to actually use it.
Isn't that funny that the usage rollover credits are actually a form of retention?
Even though they're put there because people are not actually using and getting value.
That's
from the
what I'm
product.
saying. Like, it's an unintended consequence.
In some ways, it's like the psychology of it is that if you're paying for a usage-based product, like let's say you hop in a cab in Manhattan and you're looking at the taxi meter and it's going up and up and up. You're like, oh shit, like I'm going to be spending a ton of money on this cab. I've got to get out here, or let me not take cabs in the future. And with usage-based pricing models, that psychology comes into play too, right? You see the meter running constantly. Every time you're thinking about, hey, should I use AI for this? You're like, well, I don't really want to use all my credits for this. I'd rather save my credits for some big project. And so at least the psychology of this is that you have money to spend, you have money in your wallet, you're feeling rich, you're feeling like you can use those credits finally. And so hopefully from a psychology perspective, it actually drives more ongoing adoption and gets people, no longer to be afraid of going over.
What most people don't realize though is there's the people using the credits, and there's a person who gets the bill in the background, and it's like, oh, we got out at Midtown, but they charged us as if we were going to Hoboken in the taxi regardless. There's the psychological element, but then there's the what am I actually going to have to pay for once the tab is due.
To me, credits are a bridge, right? They stop the bleeding for companies that are selling AI. They help us monetize the power users who are really abusing the system and dragging down everyone else. The top 5% of users often account for 70% of the cost in AI companies. So they kind of bring that more in balance, but really, it's a bridge. I don't see this as the end state. I don't think anyone wants to manage dozens of vendors with different credit models. Where I could see us going is more adoption of outcome-based pricing, where it's really aligned. The more you use it, the more ROI you get. You pay for that ROI. Or we'll move to a model where there'll be pooled credits, where you can buy a package of credits that you can actually use across vendors, right? So you're buying access to the tool and you're buying credits. And credits are, maybe a direct relationship with the LLMs themselves, and you can just plug those into whatever provider you want.
Dude, time is a pendulum. We are back to the reseller model. This is just like you're buying your AWS credits from somebody else, or you can buy GCP. We're gonna do the same thing. It's like bundling and unbundling. That's all monetization is, right, Kyle?
It really is. The big players like OpenAI and Anthropic are probably going to be the winners regardless of what happens with the application layer.
We should stop this podcast right now and just go spin up a reselling model for OpenAI credits and Anthropic. I think there's an arbitrage opportunity.
Just buy in bulk and then oversell people who aren't going to use their usage credits.
Something like that. You're onto it. Kyle, next one I want to go through here. So I obviously haven't slept in days. It's not because I'm working hard, but because I have two very small children that want to wake up at 5:30 each morning and watch Moana. 996. This is trending everywhere. For the benefit of listeners, what is 996?
Oh man, 996. And actually, wait, what you just said reminded me. I was on vacation with my nephew. I wake up at 6 a.m. to take the dog out. He's already awake. He's on his iPad and he starts jumping up and down he's so excited to see me. And it's oh, wow, I'm apparently the best uncle ever. He goes, because you woke up, I can watch the Minecraft movie. My mom and dad said I could only watch it once the uncles were awake. Now I see where the loyalty lies. So 996 is a little bit less fun. It's this idea, I think, borrowed from Chinese work culture, where people are supposed to work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. I'm even seeing, some companies brag, they're not just 996, they're 997. We're kind of in this big hustle culture, particularly with AI companies, where it's all about speed. It's all about building in public, posting on LinkedIn about how hard you're working. Everyone required to be in the office. We're moving so fast to keep up with AI. And if you can't keep up with this, you shouldn't work here. But yes, CJ, 996. Are you going to start mandating it at Mostly Media, the new empire over here?
I was looking into what it was because I saw it on our sheet today. And I actually think it's taken from Foxconn. the Apple manufacturer, like where people work so many hours that they like jump off the roofs. And if you look up Foxconn, they had to put nets so that people, like, if you jump off, hopefully you live. We're romanticizing this now where everybody's in the office. What I think is interesting, like good, bad, or indifferent, is many of the founders who are preaching this 996, Kyle, they never were working a corporate job or like at a tech company during COVID. Many of them are like 23, 24 years old. And they just like live at the office. So they were never there when like we were debating like, let's do a 4-day work week. Like that just like wasn't like a cultural thing at the time.
Well, I think that is right. A lot of these are really young founders, but what I find incredible is that all of them are pitching AI products that are going to save you all this time. And so it's like, you're going to save 20 hours a week with this cool AI workflow, but we need our employees to work like 100-hour work weeks to sell this thing. Like the disconnect there is mind-boggling to me. Like, all right, is this something that is making people so magically efficient that they only need to work 3 days a week to get, more done than a regular person? Or are we in an environment where that's actually all hype and we actually need to work harder than ever? And regardless of whether we use AI tools, it's all just performative. We got to be in the office.
My brother just took a job at Cursor recently. So he's on the sales side. He's been there for like a month and everybody goes into the office. And he had like a family trip that he had planned before he took the job. So he was back with us. We were on Cape Cod. It's a Sunday at like 1 p.m. And he shows me his phone and it's a Slack just as like steak is served for lunch in the cafeteria. I'm like, dude, it's Sunday. Like, what is going on? It's like less like a work schedule. It's just a way of living really around work and finding ways to like find sustenance along the way.
Yeah, it does feel like a bit of a cult.
Well, you're describing the cult.
Yeah, it is kind of wild. I appreciate the desire to really move fast. We're in a period where like things are changing really quickly, and having like a small team that's really, in this working hard together to solve a big problem. Like, I think there's something cool and inspiring about that. But I think there's a really big difference between doing that as a small founding team of, 10, maybe 15, maybe 20 people really trying to grind and get something from 0 to 1. And then there's just scaling. And like, to me, scaling, you can't do that for an extended period of time. Like, you're just going to inevitably get burnt out. I think also people used to believe that there was a relationship between hard work and great outcomes. Like, their companies would go public, they'd all get banked, they could retire early. I think people trust that way less now. Like, they're going to work really hard and for what? Yeah, maybe a good salary, but it's harder and harder to IPO. People don't see that liquidity light at the end of the tunnel anymore. And then from my vantage point, like, I never saw the times when I was working the hardest as the times that I was actually the most productive. Like, you lose creativity, you lose originality, you can't really solve complex problems. You just start doing more, or you start goofing off, right? Because your work is your life. It takes some separation and like actually disconnecting from work in order to be able to innovate in a way that keeps driving growth.
My brain is a potato past 3 p.m. Like sitting at this desk. Like, I'm not writing.
It's a potato before 3 p.m. Let's be real, but
So I was having this conversation with a VC. We're starting off the conversation just talking about like how life is, blah, 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 blah. We haven't really hit on any topics yet. And this person is complaining to me that they now have to go back into the office 3 out of 5 days a week, back into the investment firm 3 out of 5 days a week. 20 minutes later, we go by. I'm like, what are you investing in? Blah, blah, blah. What gets you most excited? Statement. We only invest in companies that are in the office every day. We're looking for people who are working 996. I'm like, so like, it sucks that you have to go in 3 days a week now, but you only want to invest in these companies that are running like this. I don't know what I want to. Yeah, I was going to say it. Okay. It's our podcast. We can say whatever we want. Running a sweatshop. So I don't know. It's just a weird like comparison point.
I think the only job that should be 996 is probably VC, although I have no idea what they would do if forced to work together for that many hours. It's interesting though, like, to me right now, there's such a disconnect between the top companies and everyone else. I think we'll get into some of this as we go, but some of these AI companies are raising boatloads of money. They're growing insanely fast. They're working really hard. And like, they're hitting these revenue milestones that we never thought were possible. And so, if you're a VC, you want your money concentrated in the winners, and not everyone else, right? So there's this like gap between these folks that are seen as winners that are taking, 70, 80% of the funding available, getting, really insane valuations super quickly. And to me, before real product market fit in a lot of cases. But those are the folks that VCs want to back because their fund math is calling for the top performers, the 100Xs, right? And so if you're only trying to invest in 100Xs, these are the companies that look like they're best positioned to be that way.
But to your point, like I can't imagine a 150 person, 200 person company that is working 996. Like what is your growth marketing manager doing at 11 p.m. on a Wednesday?
How many emails are you sending your customer? It's true.
Yeah.
It's wild. All right, CJ, you care a lot about public markets. You follow all the metrics. I look at public SaaS companies and I say they had a 57-month gross margin adjusted CAC payback period in Q1. I don't think Q2 is going to be a whole lot better. This just feels to me like pretty insane, right? It's taking the best companies, the ones who've made it, they've gone public. It takes them 5 years to recover their sales and marketing spending. And in an environment where AI is meaning their customers are less loyal than before, their roadmaps are no longer in line with what the market wants. Like we're in this like rapid adjustment period, yet people are expecting that they should be able to spend this much money to acquire a customer. Like it just feels to me like there's such a massive disconnect going on. So like help me make sense of this. How are CFOs greenlighting this? Like, and also, am I right with the data or are you seeing things differently?
Well, first of all, I was surprised that other people were surprised. Like I had always realized that like and it's not that I'm smarter than anybody else. I'm just looking at the metrics. Like, yeah, a lot of these companies take 3 years, 4 years, even 5 years to get their money back. Part of like, you don't want to lose the forest through the trees. A lot of the products they're selling, the customer sticks around for 5 years, 10 years. Like NetSuite from Oracle doesn't get ripped out that often. No matter what you want to say about if you like it, don't like it. Like if you put Snowflake in, it's probably going to be there for a while, okay? So I track on a weekly basis how some of these efficiency metrics are trending. And so this is using LTM GAAP revenue, okay? So if you use ARR, that's a more generous look at things because it's using your exit balance of basically what your recurring revenue is. This is what you've actually recognized over the last 12 months. And there's no, so I used to do this all the time. I probably sent it to you a couple of times when you invested in my company, but I would lag the sales and marketing costs by 1 quarter to say, well, the amount money we're spending and putting into the ether, it takes like at least 3 months to actually result in some sort of revenue. These are not lag. So what I'm trying to say is this is the strictest way to look at it, but the overall median of the companies that I track is around 36 months. There are some companies in there that are closer to 50, depending on what sector you're in. So like if you're a security-based company, it's an extremely labor-intensive field sales motion most of the time. But if you're a fintech or payments company that benefits from network effects and you can amortize down the cost of your infrastructure, that's a lot more efficient. I think like what's important to know though, the best companies overall, like in any sector, are able to recoup their costs in under 2 years. So like if you're a private company, I think you start to look at like the unit economics of inefficiency metrics of like what public companies are doing comparatively, like after Series B, once you find product market fit. And so like what I would have in the back of my head is like, how do I prove that within a year and a half, 2 years, I'm getting my money back?
Well, looking at this data, all right, so you're giving people credit of 12 months, right? I was looking at a quarter and probably, with Q1 being probably the worst quarter for a lot of businesses. And are you adjusting for gross margin or are you looking at this on a revenue basis?
This is like the Bernie Sanders meme. Like I am once again asking you to gross margin adjust your CAC payback period. Yeah, I am gross margin adjusting it. But to your point, like if you were using one of the shittiest quarters seasonality wise, that definitely would have a lag. And I think like a lot of these companies too are over investing in certain areas, like with trying to figure out like what these new channels for distribution are. So it's kind of like things are getting worse, I think, before they get better.
Yeah, but even still, I mean, the way you see it is the median across the last 12 months is a 36-month gross margin adjusted CAC payback period. So it takes 3 years to recoup sales and marketing costs. And for horizontal SaaS, 46 months. For security and identity, 47 months CAC payback. So customers better stick around for a very long time and increase their spend in order to ever, make money on them on a cohort basis.
You know what's wild? The average tenure of a CMO at one of these SaaS companies, Kyle, is 18 months, and the CAC payback period median is 36 months.
So it's someone else's problem. Actually, it's probably two people's problem before you have to worry about whether that customer is sticking around.
This is something that I think you got to take with a grain of salt, right? Because it also depends on your monetization model and the types of resources you're deploying against it. So are you field sales? Are you product-led growth? Is it a combination of the two?
It's a super interesting time for AI too, because many industry verticals, their customers are, have adopted less tech than in other industries, and they really want technology that solves a business problem for them. And so, for example, answering customer calls and, putting a quote together. That's something, if you're out in the field, you're not answering prospect and customer calls all the time. You just simply can't. And so voice AI for specific industry verticals that's trained on that company, that industry, so many of those product opportunities are so natural and obvious, and their customers get it. And they're actually surprisingly raising their hand and saying they want more AI, and they want it from the vendor that they're already working with, that already has their CRM data, their marketing data, their ERP data, because they trust that that company is going to be just one vendor to work with, so they don't have to manage multiple vendors, and then B, just have better AI since it's trained on all the history and past interactions.
Kyle, I've sent over CRM cubes to you before because I knew that you were doing your own CAC payback period math. I would tell you what I thought it was the way I calculated, but the investors always do their own. At what point, industry agnostic, do you look at the data and say this CAC payback period should actually start to go down over time? Is there ever a period where you're actually okay with it going up for a finite period of time because you're still scaling?
Well, so for private companies, your CAC payback period never looks as good as right before you raise money. Your reps are ramped, you've maybe pulled back, or you moderated some of your marketing spend, right? And you're harvesting what had already been coming in. And then you raise that Series A, you raise that Series B, you immediately start hiring people, right? So you have costs with go-to-market ahead of people being able to ramp and sell. And often those new reps are going to perform a lot worse with the same leads. You're also going to start investing in new channels. You're going to ramp up experimentation. You're going to hire folks in marketing. You're going to hire new agencies. So the idea of CAC payback periods going up when you're investing in growth makes total sense. I mean, that's normal, that's expected. But I guess at the public company level, we expect folks to start being more efficient. At some point, a software company needs to become an efficient, profitable business. And so I don't think these public companies can say, oh, we're just in ramping mode because, A, they've been around for forever. And B, growth is actually declining at almost all of these companies. And so it's not like the incremental investments that they've been making in things like go-to-market have been paying off. What it feels like is these companies built bloated go-to-market motions to try to sell a product that's no longer resonating in the market. And so to hit growth goals, they'll maybe do an annual price increase. And so a lot more of their growth comes from these annual price increases as opposed to acquiring new customers. And they're just essentially following the private equity playbook, but in the public markets.
So that's scary what you said. So just to play it back, growth rates are declining, but CAC payback periods are going up, which would tell you something not good. It'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's not a great time to be a public SaaS company right now.
All right, Kyle, I've followed your sage advice. Go-to-market engineers, hottest role of 2025. I have hired 4 of them from Mostly Media. We've run out of desks. What's going on with this role? Is it taking off?
I thought it was going to be the hottest role of the year so far. I was absolutely wrong. I think there were more LinkedIn posts about go-to-market engineers than there are actual go-to-market engineers out there in the world. Zooming out, what the heck is this role, right? Why is this a new thing? Well, go-to-market is requiring more data, right? To be able to take advantage of the new intent signals, better insights about who our best customers are, and to be able to run really personalized plays, whether that's outbound plays, inbound plays, or just plays across the funnel. And, your existing team are going to be great in their core roles, And you often want someone that has a more engineering focused background who can build kind of complex automated workflows that take advantage of some of the best next gen data out there and that run some of these smart go-to-market plays on autopilot, and also ideally have an experimentation mindset who can look at where there's the biggest bottlenecks in go-to-market, run some rapid experimentation around some creative, data-driven, automated things across the business. So focus on a certain area, be oriented towards outcome and, what's the impact of the things they're working on, start to solve some of these problems, and then move on to the next bottleneck. So it's kind of a growth role, like a kind of a growth marketer or growth PM, or even just like kind of classic growth hacker, but applied to a sales-led part of a business. But that paired with someone that has more engineering skill set and background to actually take advantage of what's possible now through AI and through next gen technology. So a really cool role. And like, frankly, some of the most fascinating companies out there have been hiring for go-to-market engineers. Like I've seen job posts for go-to-market engineers at places like Ramp, at Webflow, at OpenAI, has a lead to opportunity systems engineer, for example. Many of the hot Bay Area companies are hiring for this role. But I think that this has been one of those instances in tech where the hype is much ahead of the reality on the ground. And while the role has sort of captured the curiosity of folks, it's not broken through in terms of hiring and job data. So I dug into job posts from the last year across different job titles. And over the last 3 months, for example, there were 128 job posts for go-to-market engineers. Now, that's not bad for a role that's like 18 months old. And there's certainly some cool companies hiring for it. There was one job post for a go-to-market engineer for every 92 SDR job posts. Now, SDRs and BDRs, I thought we all decided that was dead and AI was going to do it. It seems like that is 92 times as in demand as a go-to-market engineer, which is supposed to be that hot next-gen job title.
I think this is a classic example that like any hiring manager has experienced before. Like take the AI out of it. Like you create this unicorn in a lab. Like, of course I would love someone who can both close the books and also nail a quota of $1 million and take out the trash. Like I will totally hire that person. Just because like it's ideal and it sounds like everything we're moving towards doesn't necessarily mean that there's somebody out there who's ready to fulfill that job rack right now.
Yeah, exactly. It's a unicorn role. And when people have asked me, how do I hire someone like this? I've kind of been like, well, you can't really hire like anyone off the street for this role. You kind of need to find a failed founder, right? Like someone who's technical, gets go to market, and also gets this and has fun with this idea of like solving cross-functional problems and has a lot of influence because you've got to influence both sales and marketing. And it's like, this is a really hard candidate to hire for, which is maybe why OpenAI can hire for a go-to-market engineer, and that, Series A startup down the street is going to struggle too.
When I read your post, like my gut reaction was like, oh, he's talking about a sales systems engineer who doesn't want to talk to people anymore.
But these are people that actually have to work on go-to-market. So go-to-market requires talking to people, for better or worse.
But I think like a derivative question of this, is this in addition to whatever like your setup would be, or is this replacing what traditional RevOps was?
Yeah, in my mind, like this is sort of RevOps, but with a fancier title and with some more tech skills. And when I thought through, where we're going with this, like I think that we have so much power available through AI and, new data sources and so on, that should just be much more accessible to average everyday people with some technical skills. Like you shouldn't need to be an engineer to use Clay. You should be able to use it yourself or to maybe hire an agency that can help you on certain technical projects. But like, I think where the trend is people expect to be able to adopt AI and automation, regardless of what your role is or job title is or technical background. And so that means that if all this is someone that is a systems thinker who has good visibility into what's working and what's not working with go-to-market and who can go run initiatives and experiments to go solve problems in go-to-market and use technology for that, then it's just RevOps with a fancier title and maybe with some additional pay as well.
I know I'm giving you a bit of a hard time about it, but I think like there is an analog in history, and that's like the Salesforce admin. that didn't exist before Salesforce. You couldn't have had it. So I think like these system changes need to come first, and then you fill in the needs to optimize it.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. I feel like the Salesforce admin just became RevOps, which sounded like a sexier title and had more pay, was seen as more strategic. And so, yeah, with each of these steps, like the trend is helping people realize the value of some of these ops people in ops roles, but often the title is a short-term thing because of a vendor, but not where you're going long-term.
I feel like if this was like the Mad Men episode, but for like go to market and for like AI in today's age, Don Draper would be like pitching Clay on this. Like, this is what we could influence for the market in order to have this uptake of your product. It's like the guy who came up with the idea in order to sell more books. He made it really cool architecturally. Talk about a long play to put libraries in your house and have more bookshelves in your office. And so it's kind of like the ends justify the means there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that every software vendor is trying to create a category, create a movement, create a community, right? And I think this really serves Clay in particular as a tool that's kind of hard to pin down, but it's like they provide you the data and the automation to create pretty complex go-to-market plays and motions. And those are things that a lot of companies aren't doing, and they don't have anyone who kind of raises their hand to own that internally. So I think it's their attempt at like evangelizing and creating buzz around it. But I think that they're right around where the world is headed. But just because they're right about it doesn't mean there needs to be a title called this thing. Like HubSpot evangelized inbound marketing. I don't think that means a bunch of people started having inbound marketer in their job title. It just became sort of a mindset and a set of tools to go deliver this thing that needed to exist in the world. And so there's always a separation between like what works really well for a brand to position its product and what the market actually needs. And it's hard to sort through that hype.
But Clay, if you do want to sponsor this, we'll call it whatever the hell you want us to. I don't know if you've recently got Blue Apron or ButcherBox to your door. I think people are really sleeping on these consumer businesses lately with all the AI buzz.
What's interesting to me is like AI has captured the public's imagination in a way that I haven't really seen in tech. Like I live in Boston, so not the Bay Area. Almost all of my friends don't actually work in tech, but they do ask me about AI. Like my parents
what do they ask you?
use AI.
Yeah, what do they ask you? Like, I always think it's funny to talk to people who aren't like the core user of it. Like my sister's a nurse. She works at Boston's Children's Hospital. We were out by the pool. She just started talking into her phone, and she was asking ChatGPT about parking like directions for like this road race we were doing. And it's just like very interesting to see people from non-tech backgrounds using AI for like use cases. I've been like, I would have never asked ChatGPT for like where to park.
Oh, yeah. I mean, people are coming up with the most creative stuff. Like I found party games have been like brainstormed with AI, like kids' bedtime stories, or via ChatGPT. I've seen people vibe coding stuff for like their hobby groups. Like someone vibe coded like a tennis scheduling app for my tennis group, right? Like the use cases are kind of incredible. And I think that has actually unlocked also spending from consumers that didn't exist before, right? So like if you're a ChatGPT, a lot of your revenue probably comes from consumers, and I think they just released data on this. Many people use ChatGPT for both work and personal life, and kind of blurs the two of like how much time they spend on each. If they pay for a ChatGPT, premium subscription, they pay that $20 a month. Now, some of them are probably getting that expense for work, but some of them are probably just paying for it out of pocket because they value all of that extra stuff. And so I find this interesting of like the thesis of product-led growth was that we could target the user, and that the user would bring a product into their work. They would try a product for free. They'd find a ton of value in it. And then all of a sudden they'd start finding bigger and bigger use cases, inviting their team. There'd be great expansion. The product would kind of sell itself. Well, this is like actually happening with AI. And it's like, you fall in love with the product from a consumer perspective. You're like creating images with OpenAI. And then you're like, oh shit, I can create these images for work too. I just need to feed it my logo and colors. And then all of a sudden you're using it for work, you're paying for it for work, and then you're, using it wall to wall across your company. It's a kind of fascinating rise of the consumer, but I'd really say like rise of B2C to B, where these consumers are, not just valued on the basis of consumer revenue, but valued on the basis that like a certain percentage of them are going to gravitate or graduate to business adoption.
To your point, I've never seen a blurring of lines between B2B and B2C like this before. And what I'm still trying to process is if it's going to be easier, and I'll just give examples here, for like OpenAI to go, like they've clearly nailed B2C, right? Like I said, my sister's paying for it and she's not using it and paying on it a corporate credit card, right? Will they make the leap from B2C to B2B just as easily? And like Anthropic, the mix is like almost like the opposite. Like they're more B2B, using the back end, piped in. Can they make the leap to B2C? And I've seen this before with like marketplace businesses, like outside of the AI world, where it's like a lot of marketplace businesses will eventually, they'll start as B2C and they'll be like, wait, there's way more money over here on this B2B side.
A lot of consumer businesses or like SMB businesses, they go look at their customer base and they're like, all right, these consumers, like they have a retention rate of like 20, 30% per year. Our business users are more like 70, 80% per year. There's no expansion on the consumer side. On the B2B side, they're inviting their team. They're going from a single user to an enterprise license. And so there's almost always this like realization. I think it's often someone from finance or an investor looks at the metrics and they're like, why aren't you focused on enterprise? And the data just becomes obvious. And so I think it's inevitable that folks are going to move more up market. Now there's more work. There's like, you've got to now start probably calling and emailing into your customer base. You got to be educating the consumer about how they can use the product for work. If you're a ChatGPT, you've got to get a lot smarter about what the roles are of your user base and how to start dripping them with insights of like how they could use this product they've used in a consumer capacity, in a business capacity. And I don't think ChatGPT has done a great job of that right now. Their B2B messaging is like a dumpster fire. I just got an ad for ChatGPT for marketing. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like this actually feels relevant to me, personalized. I then click on the landing page and the landing page had no marketing use cases at all. It was just the most generic set of like use cases. It was if someone just took a regular landing page and put marketing in the headline. And so I think that there's going to need to be a shift in like real business DNA in companies like ChatGPT, but the opportunity is there. I mean, you attract 1 billion users. It's a lot of that billion users that are going to be really interesting enterprise prospects.
A company that comes to mind is Notion, because I recently spoke to their CFO, Rama Kakkar, on the podcast. And she was saying that like there is this blurring of lines between like I use Notion with like my partner to plan our grocery list, but then I also bring it into work and you can expand from there. Can you think of any other companies that have kind of blurred the lines between like personal use and business use?
I mean, Zoom during the pandemic is an interesting one. I also think like companies like Calendly have been doing this for a while. So at Calendly, you often want to connect both your personal schedule and your work schedule so that someone doesn't like schedule a meeting when you have a personal conflict. You've also got, in the vibe coding space, you've got vibe coding apps like Lovable, Bolt, Cursor. A lot of folks use those products for personal use cases and business use cases. In the engineering world, there's also been like so many open source projects that people start on like hobby projects and like personal use. And then they are like, oh shit, I could actually use this for my business use case too. And so there's a ton, but in AI, like with image generation and tools like Canva, I'm seeing like a ton of demand there because people are using tools like Canva in personal and business use, image editing as well, and tools like Photo Room, and there's a host of others. Adobe's maybe benefiting from some of that as well.
Adobe, yeah.
And I think for many of these products, because they're able to create things for you, it's kind of up to your imagination what you want to use it for, in what context, and kind of how you customize it to the job you're trying to do. And so I think the lines are blurring really across tools.
So I pay for Canva through my LLC's business. And so I was going through there. I have like, we just did the annual planning Bible, which I created in Canva. But then I was looking, my wife was creating birthday invitations for our 2-year-old in there too. So like to your point, it's like both things are happening at once in the same account.
And hopefully using the Mostly Metrics branding.
No, it was Moana branding. But I do think like the most powerful combination is if you can get B2C personal adoption. Like I personally love this. I'm going to use it, but the end payer, once it's brought in, is on a corporate credit card. Like you have the power of the corporation, but you have the love and adoption of like the consumer on an individual level first. Like that's a powerful combo.
Yeah, I think it's super powerful, but I think the key thing is like there's steps involved, right? So like the first step is getting the consumer interest, and then you got to educate people about a business use case, right? To like make that shift. But then there's even further power to go from just like single user business use case to your team is using this. That's where real stickiness and expansion happens once folks go into collaboration mode. And then there's team to like your whole department and then whole enterprise. And usually there's sales reps that come in to help support that motion, but there's a long path to go from B2C to enterprise, and you'll probably get lucky with some early adopters that are like consumer users, but also happen to be business buyers. So many of these companies will like grab some low-hanging fruit enterprise revenue and be really excited about it. But then there's a whole like period of disillusionment where you're like, this whole thing of pivoting to B2B is a lot harder than expected and, takes real work.
Yeah, and like the CFO of JP Morgan Chase is not going to buy 10,000 licenses of your note-taking app like on a credit card. Like that has to go through a formal procurement process.
I mean, it would be great if you did.
That'd be a lot of points, especially if you're using someone like Brex, just saying. Something's been grinding my gears lately.
What's that?
What's a cracked engineer?
I mean, that is a really good question. I keep seeing people post about looking for cracked engineers, like left and right. I saw another job post for Lovable recently, hiring cracked engineers, and my millennial brain cannot handle that concept. Like, are we just not relevant in the workforce anymore?
I'm still trying to figure out what it means before I figure out if I'm relevant or not. You sent me the web. I'm like, do I want to be this? It's like something that I don't know what it is, but I think I want to be in the crew.
Like any good millennial, I Googled a cracked engineer. I probably should have asked ChatGPT, but I Googled it. And there was a whole cracked engineer manifesto that was basically like cracked engineers own problems completely. They deliver things like instantly with a high degree of urgency. They don't ask questions. They just put their head down and grind, never asking or never saying this isn't possible. They're super optimistic and everyone really likes working with them. They're not ornery at all. I'm like, I don't think I know anyone who meets all of these criteria and is also an engineer. Like, I don't
someone
think
I want to be around.
exists.
Like this person definitely just eats Soylent.
It's probably true. They sit at their desk. They're 996. They have Soylent. They have no alcohol. They also just might be AI, realistically.
Yeah, that maybe this is the greatest trick the devil ever played. Like it's really just AI. There's no such thing. What I've been trying to figure out is like, can they communicate with people, or is this just like the prototypical engineer like with zero social skills?
Yeah, I mean, apparently in the cracked engineer manifesto, they can communicate with people. Maybe if these are really AI, they have that human to human communication layer and they can subliminally communicate with machines and take down the world.
Took me long enough to figure out what Riz was. Now I'm trying to figure out what a cracked engineer is.
Thankfully, I think Riz is like, I don't hear that anymore. Maybe I'm just too much of a millennial.
I want to run a real world pricing scenario by you. Let's just try this, okay?
Let's do it.
Okay, so the thing that brings me the most joy during the week is at the end of the week, I'll go and get my car washed. There's something cathartic about it. Me and Walter will hop in the car. We actually go to Dunkin' Donuts on the way. We get a nice coffee. I get him some munchkins, and we go and get the car washed every week. I have a monthly plan for it, okay? And I was doing the math the other day. I'm part of their car wash, and they call it a car wash club, by the way, car wash membership. So I'm a part of a very exclusive club, Kyle. It costs about 2.2x what one drive-through would be, one single use. What are your thoughts on the rise of the car wash membership model and the real-world implications of this bundling?
I think it's brilliant. I think that's the only club that would have me as a member as well. I've graduated from like going to the actual club and now I'm a car wash club guy. There's something about like in the winter when it snows and you've got salt on your car constantly and it's just like disgusting to know that you have this membership and you can just go whenever you need it. Like I might not actually go more than 2 times in a month, but it feels like I do. And I certainly go more than I would have gone if I had to pay per use. And it kind of reminds me of like the Amazon model, right? Of like, hey, let's launch Prime. We'll charge you a one-time fee for your Prime membership, and then we'll give you free shipping. Well, people that are Prime members end up 3xing the amount they spend on Amazon because now it's just kind of baked into what they do. And each time they're buying from Amazon, it feels super cheap and things arrive really fast. And so I think this is brilliant. Like the margins on a car wash business are pretty great. There's not a whole lot of like incremental cost, and they can handle a ton of cars because everything's automated. So why not push for a subscription model? You get more LTV from the customer, you'll drive more usage, and ultimately turn transactional customers into kind of loyal subscription revenue.
So if I walked in and asked the owner about this model, you're correct. I did. He told me, like, in layman's terms, he's like, oh, well, I just think of the subscriptions. It covers all my overhead for the month, and all my margin is basically like all the single usage people that come in. So I think he said the business was like 30 to 40% subscription based. And then all the rest were like just a person driving by, like, I'm just going to do one shot. It's fascinating. Like we go through all these different models in tech, all these different pricing models, and like just to hear it from somebody running like a real world business, an analog business, something that you can touch out there, like how he thinks about subscription and where it fits into his P&L.
Yeah, next thing you know, they're going to have a subscription credit model. You're going to get credits for detailing or like more advanced car wash stuff. And like they're going to start moving you from like the standard club to like the VIP club. No waiting in line. You just skip the line when you get to the VIP club, and they'll probably charge you 5 or 10x the price. Like, I think there's a lot they could do. This sounds like a fun pricing project.
This is where the plot thickens, okay? So I'm on the $45 a month plan. I recently found out my wife with her car is on the $70 a month plan. So like, obviously I'm like, did we break a window? Like, what are we possibly getting for $70? But when you have 2 small kids and their Fruit Loops and crushed up gummy bears and stuff, they'll vacuum and detail the car too. I'm happy she got it, but I'm probably kind of annoying. I'm trying to remind her at least 2.2 times a month to go and get it done.
You're that CFO being like, we paid for these credits. You got to use your credits.
We've come full circle. I'm just doing it at home.
Once a CFO, always a CFO.
I'm terminally online. I'm just trying to pick up different tidbits of information here. So I'm going to give you a potentially reliable fact that I read at 2 a.m. on my iPad laying in bed. Okay.
Hit me with it.
Apparently, there are more RVs registered and on the road in the US than there are fully electric vehicles.
That is wild to me. Do I just live in a bubble? I guess I'm in Boston. So
yeah, exactly. It isn't all of us. Me and you live in these cities where like electric cars are very normal because you can go charge them and stuff. But like if you're in the middle of Missouri, if you're in the middle of Texas, and it takes 20 minutes to go to each grocery store, like Tesla isn't big there.
I need someone to explain to me the appeal of an RV. Like, I fundamentally don't get it at all. Like, if you're going to spend all that money, just like stay in a hotel or camp or get a cabin or glamp. Like, why spend that much money on something that's like not a good form of transportation somewhere, and it's not actually enjoyable to be in there once you're at the destination?
I've only had one RV experience because we took an RV, it was 8 of us, Boston College in Chestnut Hill all the way to Notre Dame.
That sounds terrible.
We drove it all the way there. It took us like a day and a half, but that thing smelled like a locker room by the time. It may have been like the natty lights had finally fermented in the carpet by then, but like that thing was, they should have just burnt it instead of returning it.
Yeah, you could not pay me to do that. So CJ, you're up at 2 a.m. reading things that are of, varying quality. I'm out here doing stuff. I'm in the arena, okay? And so what I want to talk about is what I tried this week. Like, what's a tool, a tactic, an interview question, a growth hack that actually worked or that I thought would work and I'm kind of disillusioned by.
When you wrote this down, I thought it was going to be like a menu item off like a new French restaurant that you tried. Okay, but continue going.
It's a more exciting version, right? It's the software version of that. I did try some AI tools, but honestly, so I incorporated my own LLC in the last week. I'm starting a legit business. I've got an EIN. I've got all the things. I've finally found out what Stripe actually is. But my thing that I tried this week is QuickBooks. Ever heard of it?
No way. You're on QuickBooks now?
I am on QuickBooks, which I think I've learned is a worse version of a spreadsheet because they just pull in data, get all the categorizations wrong, and then you have no ability to fix it without having confidence that your data's been saved. So I don't know if I'm going to really be a long-term QuickBooks user, but someone's got to teach me how this is as large of a business as it actually is.
I'm going to try to not chalk this up to user error. I also just think it's so funny, like when VCs try these tools. If you've been in any of my roles, you've had so many QuickBooks experiences, just like operating a company, like you start on QuickBooks and you move to something else. They have like hundreds of millions of users. It's like a blowing stat. We had their CFO on the podcast, and he was explaining like how they have this awesome B2B model, but they also have the B2C model because Intuit also has QuickBooks and it has Credit Karma as well. So like fantastic business. But back to QuickBooks, this has always been like the last bastion of like the thing to get upset within the CFO finance stack because it's like your system of record, it's sticky, it has all your information in there, there's a lot of data gravity to it, but there's actually been a couple of companies that are up and coming who are finally taking it on. So the three that come to mind, Quanta, who marries like the QuickBooks software with agents for closing the books. You got Campfire that's built from the ground up, that's AI. And then you also have Rillet that's doing something similar. And it's interesting that like all of these companies are finally coalescing to like try to attack either the QuickBooks category that's been long entrenched or the NetSuite category, which you usually go to afterwards.
Yeah, there's I think some interesting times to reinvent this because QuickBooks, at least for me, is not cutting it. I think the service that I would probably gravitate towards, and I might still, would be something like a Collective, which does essentially your accounting, bookkeeping, and taxes kind of like as a tech-enabled service or as an AI-enabled service that just like does it for you and is opinionated and helps you actually like understand what's going on, because as a solopreneur, I don't actually care about the details. I want someone else to handle it for me. And I want to have confidence that it's right and that it's saving me money. And QuickBooks is just kind of a weird in-between where I don't think it's saving me a whole lot of time. And it has no opinions or really value add, at least for my use case.
That's exactly what I wanted to ask you. Like, what is your use case? Like, what opinion do you want to have on it? Because like, are you just doing it to stay compliant, or are you actually like looking to make decisions based on it? Because I think those are two different categories. If like you're using it to run the business versus like, shit, I got a business now, I guess I got to put some numbers into QuickBooks to make sure I don't get like yelled at by the IRS.
I think I'm the latter, but I might need a CFO. So if you know anyone,
give you the friends and family discount. All right, Kyle, this was fun. I hope we can do it again.
Yeah, let's do it, CJ.
Mostly Growth is a Mostly Media production, executive produced by Ben Hillman. That's me. Nothing said on this podcast is intended to be business or investment advice. It's the sole opinion of CJ, Kyle, and Ben. Just some guys who love talking growth, mostly. If you like this podcast, hit subscribe, give us 5 stars, or hit like. The algorithm overlords thank you. Drink water, call your mom, and have a great day.